The great hall of the Covenant Council had never felt so cold. Kel Varath stood at the center of the massive chamber and looked at the faces around him. 12 species. 12 worlds. All of them afraid. The holographic display behind him showed the damage. Another system had fallen. The planet Meridian, home to 6 billion Thalians, was now nothing but ash and rubble. The Dominion had shown no mercy. They never did. "We cannot continue like this," said High Chancellor Prin from her elevated seat. Her silver skin reflected the blue lights of the chamber. "Every cycle, we lose more. Every cycle, the Dominion grows stronger." Kel Varath was a diplomat of the Sithrani people. He had spent his entire life finding solutions to impossible problems. But this problem had no solution. The Dominion fleet outnumbered them 5 to 1. Their weapons were stronger. Their soldiers were bred for war. The Covenant was an alliance of peaceful species who had forgotten how to fight. "We need allies," Kel said. "There must be someone in this galaxy who can stand against them." A bitter laugh came from the corner. Ambassador Dreth of the Cornery shook his massive head. "We have sent messages to every known species. The ones who would help are too weak. The ones who are strong do not care. We are alone." The council fell silent. Outside the great windows, the capital city of Scythria continued its daily life. Citizens walked through the streets, children played in the parks, and merchants sold their goods. They did not know that their government was planning for the end. That night, Kel could not sleep. He walked through the empty corridors of the government complex until he found himself at a door he had not visited in many years. The Archives of Forgotten Peoples. The door opened with a soft sound. Inside, the room was dark except for the glow of thousands of data crystals. Each one contained the history of a species that had vanished from the galaxy. Some had died naturally. Some had been destroyed. Some had simply disappeared, that an old figure emerged from the shadows. Elder Maven was the keeper of these records. She was ancient even by Sithrani standards, and her eyes held the weight of countless histories. "Ambassador Varath," she said with a thin smile, "it has been a long time since anyone visited my collection. Are you looking for something specific?" Kel hesitated. "I am looking for hope, Elder. I am looking for any species that might help us against the Dominion." Maven moved slowly between the shelves. Her thin fingers touched the data crystals as if greeting old friends. "There are many forgotten peoples here. Most are dead. Some were never real to begin with. But there is one story that has always interested me." She pulled a crystal from a high shelf and placed it in the reader. The hologram that appeared was corrupted and incomplete. It showed strange bipedal creatures with soft skin and small eyes. They walked upright on 2 legs and had no natural weapons. No claws, no armor, no venom. "Humans," Maven said. "They came from a world called Earth, a death world by our standards. Extreme gravity, toxic atmosphere, violent weather, and countless predatory species. Yet somehow they survived. They even thrived." Kel studied the image. The creatures looked weak and fragile. What happened to them? 400 years ago, they made first contact with the Velthari Empire. The Velthari were conquerors, much like the Dominion. They saw humans as a threat and tried to destroy them. The humans fled into the dead zone and were never seen again. "So they are extinct," Kel said with disappointment. "Perhaps," Maven replied. "But here is the interesting part. The Velthari Empire, which had conquered 100 worlds, collapsed completely within 50 years of that first contact. Every colony destroyed. Every ship lost. Every record erased. As if something hunted them to extinction. A chill ran down Kel's spine. "You think the humans did that?" "I think the Velthari made an enemy they did not understand. The ancient texts describe humans as impossible creatures. They can heal from wounds that would kill any other species. They can survive without sleep for days. They form bonds with other species and fight for them as fiercely as they fight for their own kind. And when threatened, they do not flee. They attack. They adapt. They endure. Mevin turned off the hologram. But these are just stories, Ambassador. The humans are probably dead. The dead zone is called that for a reason. No ship that enters has ever returned. Cal thanked the elder and left the archives. He told himself that the story was just a myth, a tale to frighten children. Humans were not real. They could not be. 3 days later, the Covenant detected a signal from the edge of the dead zone. It was the first transmission from that region in 400 years. The message was simple, broadcast on an ancient frequency that no modern species still used. It contained only coordinates and a single sentence in a language that took the computers hours to translate. When the translation finally appeared on the council screens, the chamber fell completely silent. High Chancellor Prin read the words aloud, her voice shaking. "We have been watching. We are ready. Send one ship. Come along." The message was signed with a symbol that matched the corrupted records in the archives. The symbol of a species that should not exist. The symbol of humanity. Kelvarath looked at the coordinates on the screen. The dead zone had been silent for 4 centuries. Now something had woken up, and the galaxy would never be the same. The scout ship cut through the darkness of space like a small spark in an endless night. Pilot Zeran checked his instruments for the 100th time. Everything was working correctly. The coordinates were locked. The dead zone waited ahead. Zeran was young for a Thalian. His blue scales had not yet darkened with age, and his forearms moved with the nervous energy of inexperience. The Covenant Council had chosen him for this mission because his ship was fast and he was expendable. They did not expect him to return. The dead zone appeared on his screens as a wall of electromagnetic interference. Sensors became useless. Navigation systems failed. Zeran switched to manual control and pushed forward into the unknown. For 3 hours, he flew blind. The silence was absolute. No signals, no debris, no signs of life. Just empty space that seemed to swallow everything. Then the Dominion patrol found him. 3 warships dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of his vessel. They were Hunter-class cruisers, designed for exactly this kind of work. Finding lone ships and destroying them. Zeran tried to run, but his small scout was no match for their speed. A warning shot burned past his cockpit, close enough to scorch the hull. The lead ship broadcast a message. "Unknown vessel. Power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in immediate destruction." Zeran closed his eyes. This was the end. He had failed his mission before it even began. The Covenant would never know what the signal meant. They would never find their answer. The first Dominion ship exploded without warning. Zeran opened his eyes, just in time to see the second ship break apart in a flash of blue fire. The third tried to turn, tried to flee, but something tore through its hull like paper. In less than 10 seconds, all 3 warships were reduced to burning wreckage. Zeran's hearts were beating so fast he thought they might burst. He scanned the area desperately, trying to find what had destroyed the Dominion patrol. His sensors showed nothing. Empty space in every direction. Then a ship appeared directly beside him. It did not arrive through hyperspace. It did not fly in from a distance. It simply appeared, as if it had been there all along, invisible and waiting. The vessel was unlike anything Zeran had ever seen. Angular and dark, covered in strange symbols, with weapons that still glowed hot from the recent attack. A voice came through his communication system. It spoke his language, but with an accent he could not place. "Thalian Scout, do not be afraid. We are not your enemy. Please follow us." Someone wants to meet you. Zaran had no choice. His ship was damaged, his fuel was low, and he was deep inside the dead zone. He followed the strange vessel through the interference until they reached a station hidden in the electromagnetic clouds. The station was enormous. Hundreds of ships floated around it, all similar to the one that had saved him. Zaran docked his scout and stepped out into an environment that immediately felt wrong. The gravity was heavier than he was used to. The air was thicker, filled with strange smells. The temperature was warmer. Every step felt like walking through water. A figure approached him. It matched the images from the ancient archives. 2 arms, 2 legs, soft skin, small eyes. A human. "Welcome to Haven Station," the human said. It was a female, with dark hair and a calm expression. "My name is Lieutenant Katie Vance. I apologize for the dramatic rescue, but the Dominion has been pushing closer to our borders. We could not let them capture you." Zaran struggled to speak. "You are real. Humans are real." Katie smiled. "Very real. We have been here for 400 years, building, growing, and watching. When we saw your people suffering, we decided it was time to stop watching." She led him through the station corridors. Everywhere Zaran looked, he saw humans working, talking, and living. Some wore military uniforms. Others wore simple clothing. Children ran past, laughing and playing as if they did not live in the most dangerous region of the galaxy. They reached a command center filled with screens and holographic displays. A man stood at the center, studying tactical data. He was tall, with gray hair and eyes that looked tired but determined. "Captain Ryan Mercer," Katie said. "This is the Thalian pilot we rescued." Mercer turned and studied Zaran with curiosity. "Thank you for coming. I know it took courage to enter the dead zone. Please, sit down. We have much to discuss." Zaran sat, still struggling to process what he was seeing. "How did you survive? The archives said you fled here centuries ago. Everyone assumed you were dead." "We nearly were," Mercer admitted. "The Valkyrie hunted us without mercy. We lost billions of our people in those first years. But we are stubborn creatures. We found this place, hid ourselves, and began rebuilding. The Valkyrie thought they had won. They stopped looking for us." His expression grew dark. "That was their mistake. We spent decades developing new technology, building a fleet, and training our children to fight. When we were ready, we returned to Valkyrie space and finished what they started. Every ship, every colony, every last trace of their empire. We erased them from history." Zaran felt cold, despite the warm air. "You destroyed an entire species?" "They tried to destroy us first," Katie said quietly. "We gave them the same mercy they gave our children." Mercer leaned forward. "We know what the Dominion is doing to your people. We have watched them conquer and slaughter for decades. We could have stayed hidden. We could have let the galaxy burn. But we chose differently this time. Why?" Zaran asked. "Because we remember what it felt like to be alone and afraid. Because no one helped us when we needed it. And because some things are worth fighting for, even if they are not our own." Mercer stood and activated a holographic display. It showed the entire galaxy, with Dominion territory marked in red. The red covered nearly half of everything. "Tell your covenant that humanity offers alliance. True partnership, not submission. We will fight beside you, not above you. But we will not beg for acceptance, and we will not hide what we are." He looked directly at Zaran. "We are the species that survived extinction. We are the nightmare that destroyed an empire. And if the Dominion wants a war, we will give them one they will never forget." Zaran nodded slowly. He had come looking for hope. He had found something far more powerful. He had found humanity. The human ship arrived at Cythria without warning. One moment, The sky was empty. The next moment, a massive vessel hung above the capital city like a dark cloud. Defense systems locked onto it immediately, but the readings made no sense. The power output alone was greater than the entire Covenant. Defense fleet combined. Citizens stopped in the streets and looked up. Children pointed at the strange shape. Soldiers ran to their stations, unsure whether to fire or flee. High Chancellor Prin watched from her balcony as a smaller craft descended from the warship. It landed gently in the government plaza, and 3 figures stepped out. 2 humans in military uniforms and the Thalian pilot Zeran, who had been given up for dead. The council gathered in emergency session. Kelvarath stood near the entrance as the humans walked in. He had read every record about them. He had memorized every ancient story. But nothing had prepared him for the reality. They moved with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. Their eyes scanned the room constantly, noting exits and threats. Even unarmed, they radiated danger. The man introduced himself as Commander Derek Cole. He was built like a soldier, with scars on his hands and a face that showed no fear. The woman beside him was Dr. Lauren Webb, smaller and softer in appearance, but her eyes missed nothing. "We represent the Human Coalition," Cole said. His voice filled the chamber without effort. "We received your signal and your scout. We are here to discuss alliance." High Chancellor Prin spoke carefully. "We are grateful for your response, Commander, but we know very little about your people. The archives speak of you as legends, not as real beings. You will understand our caution." "We understand perfectly," Dr. Webb replied. "Our history taught us the price of trusting strangers. That is why we hid for so long. That is why we watched your struggles without interfering." "Then why interfere now?" asked Ambassador Dreth, suspicion heavy in his voice. Cole met his gaze without flinching. "Because the Dominion is not just conquering. They are exterminating. Every species they defeat is erased from existence. We have seen this pattern before. We will not watch another genocide happen when we have the power to stop it." The negotiations continued for hours. Humans explained their terms. They wanted recognition as equal partners, not subordinates. They wanted territorial rights to the Dead Zone, which they now called the Haven Sector. They wanted assurance that their people would never again be hunted simply for existing in exchange. They offered their fleet, their technology, and their soldiers. They offered to train Covenant forces and share their weapons. They offered to stand between the Dominion and every innocent world. Some council members were grateful. Others were terrified. Ambassador Dreth spoke what many were thinking. "How do we know you will not turn on us when the Dominion is defeated? You destroyed the Velthory completely. What stops you from doing the same to us?" Dr. Webb answered before Cole could respond. Her voice was calm but carried weight. "The Velthory attacked our children. They burned our colonies while families slept. They hunted survivors through space and laughed while they died. We gave them exactly what they earned." She paused and looked around the chamber. "Your people never harmed us. You reached out in desperation, seeking help. That is not the action of an enemy. That is the action of a neighbor in need. We do not destroy neighbors. We protect them." The debate might have continued for days, but the Dominion made the decision for them, a transmission cut through all frequencies. The holographic projector activated automatically, and a massive figure appeared in the center of the council chamber. Warlord Krath Morris, Supreme Commander of the Dominion forces, thought he was enormous, even as a hologram. His armored body was covered in the symbols of conquered species. His eyes burned with contempt. "Covenant of Realms," he said with a voice like grinding stone. "Your time is finished. You have one cycle to surrender unconditionally. Your leaders will be executed. Your populations will be processed. Your worlds will serve the Dominion. This is not negotiation. This is notification. I Chancellor Prince stepped forward to respond, but Commander Cole moved faster. He walked directly into the holographic transmission range, making himself visible to Morris. The warlord paused. His eyes narrowed at the unfamiliar figure. What is this? A new species joins the condemned? Identify yourself. Cole stood perfectly still. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but carried absolute certainty. I am Commander Derek Cole of the Human Coalition. You do not know us, Warlord, but your ancestors might have told stories. We are the ghosts from the Dead Zone. We are the nightmare that ended the Veltary. We are humanity. Morris laughed, a deep and terrible sound. Humanity? A myth. A fairy tale told to frighten children. You expect me to believe you are real. I expect nothing from you, Cole replied. I am not here to convince you of anything. I am here to deliver a message. He stepped closer to the projection, his face filling the transmission. The Covenant is under our protection now. Every ship you send against them will burn. Every soldier you deploy will die. Every world you threaten will be defended by human hands. You have one chance to withdraw your forces and end this conquest. There will not be a second warning. Morris stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed again and cut the transmission. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Voices shouted in fear and confusion. But Calvarath noticed something strange. The humans were not worried. Cole and Webb exchanged a glance that almost looked like anticipation. Cole turned to face the council. His expression was calm, almost peaceful. You wanted legends, he said. Now watch what legends do. 3 days later, the human fleet emerged from the Haven sector. 200 warships, built in secret over 4 centuries, armed with weapons the galaxy had never seen. The Dominion had no idea what was coming. The war was about to begin. Admiral Scott Brennan stood on the bridge of the carrier Endurance and watched his fleet move into position. 200 ships, 50,000 soldiers, 4 centuries of preparation. Everything humanity had built was about to be tested. The holographic display showed the battlefield. The Keller system, a strategic crossroads between Covenant space and Dominion territory. Whoever controlled Keller controlled the war. The Dominion knew this. They had sent 400 warships to claim it. Warlord Krath Morras himself commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. He expected an easy victory. He expected the Covenant to cower and surrender. He did not expect humanity. Ensign Megan Torres stood at her station on the cruiser Relentless. Her hand shook as she checked her instruments. She was 22 years old, born and raised on Haven Station. Her entire life had been preparation for this moment. Training simulations, combat drills, history lessons about the Veltary War. But simulations were not real. This was real. Those were real enemy ships on her screen. Real weapons that could kill her in an instant. Lieutenant Commander Jake Dalton noticed her trembling. He was older, a veteran of the Veltary campaign, one of the few still serving who remembered the dark years. Scared? He asked quietly. Terrified? Megan admitted. Jake nodded. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. The ones who are not afraid are the ones who make mistakes. He paused and looked at the enemy fleet. My grandmother died in the Veltary massacres. My father lost his arm defending a refugee convoy. Every human in this fleet carries those memories. We fight because we remember what it costs to lose. The Dominion fleet advanced. Their formation was perfect, their confidence absolute. They had conquered 100 worlds. They had never lost a major battle. The Covenant species were weak prey, easily crushed. Admiral Brennan opened a fleet-wide channel. His voice reached every ship, every soldier, every human in the system. This is Admiral Brennan. The enemy outnumbers us 2-1. They think that matters. They think numbers equal victory. They are wrong." He paused, letting the words sink in. 400 years ago, we were hunted to near extinction. We survived. We rebuilt. We grew strong. Not for revenge, but for this moment. For the chance to stand between the innocent and those who would destroy them. Today we prove that humanity is more than a legend. Today we prove what we are made of. The fleet moved forward. The first engagement was chaos. Dominion ships opened fire with everything they had. Energy weapons, missiles, plasma torpedoes. Space became a storm of light and destruction. But the human ships did not behave like normal vessels. They moved in patterns the Dominion had never seen. Small groups coordinated with impossible precision, covering each other, drawing fire away from damaged allies. Their weapons struck weak points that should have been hidden. Their shields held against attacks that should have broken them. Warlord Moros watched from his command throne as his fleet began to falter. Ships that should have won easy victories were being torn apart. His officers shouted reports of impossible human tactics, impossible human technology, impossible human courage. "They do not retreat," one officer said in confusion. "Their ship is crippled, but they are still firing. That cruiser took a direct hit to its engine section. It is using its remaining power to ram our destroyer." "Warlord, they are not fighting like any species we have encountered. They are fighting like they do not care if they die." Moros snarled. "Then kill them faster." But killing humans was not simple. On the Relentless, Megan Torres had stopped shaking. There was no time for fear. Her station control point defense weapons and Dominion missiles were everywhere. She tracked and fired, her training taking over when her mind wanted to panic. A lucky shot breached the hull 2 decks below her. Alarms screamed. The ship lurched. But the crew kept fighting. Jake Dalton was at the weapons console, coordinating with 3 other cruisers to take down a Dominion battleship. His voice was calm, almost casual, as if this were just another drill. Firing solution locked. All ships, concentrate fire on their shield generator. 3, 2, 1, fire. The Dominion battleship exploded. Across the system, the same scene repeated. Human ships fought with coordination that seemed impossible. When one vessel was damaged, others moved to protect it. When one fell, its crew fought to the last breath. A destroyer named Defiant lost its main engines to a torpedo strike. Instead of surrendering, its captain aimed the crippled ship at a Dominion carrier and fired all remaining weapons. Both ships died together. A frigate named Last Stand was surrounded by 5 enemy cruisers. It held them off for 20 minutes, destroying 2 and damaging 3 before finally breaking apart. Its final transmission was the captain singing an old Earth War song. Warlord Moros realized too late what he was facing. Humans did not fight for territory. They did not fight for resources. They fought for something he could not understand. Something deeper than survival. His fleet was being destroyed. Not by superior numbers or overwhelming firepower, but by sheer, unrelenting determination. Every human ship that fell took Dominion vessels with it. Every human soldier who died made sure enemies died first. The breaking point came 4 hours into the battle. The Dominion flagship took a direct hit from a human weapon that should not have penetrated its shields. Explosions ripped through the lower decks. Officers panicked. Moros gave the order he had never given before. All ships, retreat. Full retreat. The surviving Dominion vessels fled. They left behind the wreckage of 200 ships and the bodies of tens of thousands of soldiers. The Keller system belonged to humanity. On the Relentless, Megan Torres sat back in her chair and breathed for what felt like the first time in hours. The battle was over. They had won. Jake Dalton looked at her with tired eyes and something like pride. "Welcome to the war, Ensign. You did good. Megan looked at the debris field on her screen. Human ships and Dominion ships floating together in the void. The cost of victory. It does not feel like winning, she said quietly. It never does, Jake replied. But we saved a lot of people today. That is what matters. That is what we fight for. Admiral Brennan sent a message to the Covenant Council. Simple and direct. Keller system secured. Dominion fleet defeated. Humanity stands with you. The galaxy had just learned that legends were real, and legends could fight. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Keller. The galaxy was a different place now. The Dominion had collapsed completely. After their defeat, internal rebellions erupted across their territory. Species that had been enslaved for generations rose up against their masters. Warlord Krathmoros died not in glorious battle, but at the hands of his own officers who blamed him for the catastrophe, thought the Covenant of Realms no longer existed. In its place stood the United Covenant of Free Peoples, an alliance that now included dozens of liberated species and one very unusual partner. Humanity had kept its word. They fought beside their allies, not above them. They shared technology and training freely. They asked for nothing except respect and a place at the table. Cal Vorath walked through the streets of Cytheria and marveled at how much had changed. Human ships patrolled the skies alongside Covenant vessels. Human soldiers trained with Thalian warriors. Human merchants traded goods from Earth that had never been seen in this part of the galaxy. Strange foods, unusual fabrics, and art that defied explanation. But the greatest change was in the faces of the people. 1 year ago, they had lived in fear. Now they walked with confidence. Children played without worrying about Dominion attacks. Families planned for futures that had seemed impossible. Kel had been appointed as the official liaison to humanity. It was a position he had never expected and was not sure he deserved. But the humans had specifically requested him. They remembered that he was the one who first believed in them. Today was a special day. Captain Ryan Mercer had arrived to oversee a reconstruction project on Meridian, the world that had been destroyed just before humanity's emergence. The Dominion had killed 6 billion Thalians there. Now humans and Thalians worked together to rebuild. Kel found Mercer at a temporary shelter, helping to unload supplies from a transport. The captain was not giving orders from a comfortable office. He was carrying boxes alongside his soldiers and the local volunteers. Ambassador Vorath, Mercer said with a warm smile. Good to see you. Want to help? We have plenty of work. Kel picked up a container and followed Mercer into the shelter. Inside, Thalian children were receiving meals prepared by human cooks. The food was adapted to Thalian biology, carefully prepared to be safe and nutritious. You did not have to come here personally, Kel said. You are a captain, a hero. You could have sent subordinates. Mercer shrugged. Heroes do not sit in offices while others work. Besides, this is why we came out of hiding. Not to win battles, but to make things like this possible. He gestured at the children, eating and laughing. The Velthari tried to kill our children. We know what that pain feels like. We will not let any other species feel it if we can prevent it. Across the city, Dr. Lauren Webb was conducting a different kind of mission. She had established a cultural exchange program that brought young aliens to Earth for education. The first class was about to graduate. A Sithrani student named Taya stood before her classmates and spoke about her experience. When I arrived on Earth, I was terrified, she admitted. I had heard the stories. Humans survived a death world. Humans destroyed an empire. I expected monsters. She smiled and looked at Dr. Webb. Instead, I found people. Complicated, beautiful, frustrating, wonderful people. They argue about everything. They create art that makes no logical sense. They keep animals as companions for no practical reason. They laugh and cry and love with an intensity that is almost frightening. Taya held up a small object. It was a paper flower, carefully folded by human hands. A child on Earth gave this to me. She had no idea what species I was or where I came from. She just wanted to give me something beautiful. That is humanity. Not the warriors who destroyed fleets. Not the soldiers who died for strangers. The child who gives flowers to aliens, because kindness is simply what you do. Dr. Webb wiped her eyes and pretended she was not emotional. Back on Cythria, Elder Mevin sat in her archives and updated the records. For 400 years, humanity had been a single corrupted file in the collection of forgotten peoples. Now their section filled an entire wall. She wrote the final entry herself. Humanity was a whispered legend. Ancient records spoke of Death World survivors who vanished into darkness. When the galaxy faced extinction, the legend became real. Humans emerged from hiding not for conquest or revenge, but because they could not stand idle while innocents suffered. They are not gods or monsters. They are mortal beings who chose to be more than their circumstances demanded. They fought beside us. They bled with us. They rebuilt what was broken. Now they walk among us. Not as myths, but as neighbors. Not as saviors, but as friends. Mevin sealed the record and leaned back in her chair. Outside her window, a human transport flew past, heading to another world that needed help. On Meridian, the work continued until sunset. Mercer sat on a pile of rubble and watched the twin moons rise over the reconstruction site. A young Thalian boy approached him hesitantly. "Are you a human?" The boy asked. Mercer nodded. "I am. My teacher says humans come from a death world." "Is that true?" "It is called Earth," Mercer said. "It has dangerous weather, dangerous animals, and everything seems designed to kill you. But it is beautiful too. Green forests, blue oceans, white mountains. Billions of people living and working and dreaming together." The boy sat down beside him, curiosity overcoming his nervousness. "Why do you call it a death world if it is beautiful?" Mercer laughed softly. "Because to the rest of the galaxy, it looks terrifying. But to us, it is just home. We grew up there. We adapted to it. What seems impossible to others is simply normal to us." "Is that why you are so strong? Because your world tried to kill you?" Mercer considered the question carefully. "Maybe, but I think the real reason is that we learned something important. When everything is trying to destroy you, you have two choices: give up or become something that refuses to break. We chose the second option." He looked at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. "And when we found others who needed help, we remembered what it felt like to face impossible odds alone. We decided no one else should have to feel that way. So here we are." The boy nodded slowly, processing the words. Then he asked one more question. "Will you stay? Will humans stay in the galaxy?" Mercer smiled and put a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "We are not going anywhere. You are our family now. All of you. And humans do not abandon family." The moons rose higher. The reconstruction continued. And across the galaxy, a whispered legend had become an enduring truth. Humanity had arrived. And they were home.